Turner of Ohio. Thanks for joining us, Congressman. So Speaker Johnson is creating the subcommittee to investigate January 6th and the select committee that investigated that day. What's your take?
Well, there certainly are things to investigate, Jake, but I think January 6th is one of those days where I think almost all Americans' hearts break, in both the visions of people physically breaking into the Capitol, people actually assaulting police officers. The scope, I think, of Trump's pardons were unexpected. As we certainly know that there are people who did unexpectedly end up in the Capitol, who were peaceful, who were prosecuted politically, and there certainly has been just, that day has been used for political purposes. We had, of course, the Pelosi's January 6th select committee that was very, very political. There are things to continue to investigate, but at the same time, I think we're seeing really from both sides a great concern that doesn't really represent what I think the American people see that day and their concerns.
The people who broke into the Capitol, vandalized it, attacked cops, attacked Capitol Hill police, they were pardoned. Do you have an issue with that?
I think that was very unexpected, and certainly, yes, I do. Many people do, and I think the sweeping nature of it certainly was unexpected.
Do you have any idea who the House Freedom Caucus members are going to be inviting? Because obviously there is a significant difference between some grandma who got swept up in it all and was trespassing, and maybe some people feel like the prosecution of her was overzealous, and the leaders of the Proud Boys or the Oath Keepers or people who physically were attacking police, and there's video of it. And I'm not the one not distinguishing among them. The president is the one who didn't distinguish among them.
Right, but also, Jake, remember, though, the Department of Justice, it viciously prosecuted individuals, some of which ended up in the Capitol not even knowing how they ended up there or that there had been any violence whatsoever. There were people who there was such an injustice in how they were prosecutors who rightly deserved a pardon. And the fact that January 6th has been used so politically is really continues the travesty. And so certainly, as we look to this sweeping pardon, it certainly does, I think, provide some continuation of the concern of what was expected.
You say it's been used politically. I mean, it was an event incited based on lies about Trump not having lost the election, and they were there to stop the counting of the electoral votes. I mean, it is inherently political. The entire point of it was to stop a peaceful political process.
Jake, I think, like I said, I think for the American public, their heart breaks at this, that it continues on both sides to see this as just a politicization. I absolutely agree that there are individuals who deserved to be pardoned, that there was a travesty of justice, that the Department of Justice had weaponized January 6th and pursued people who did not deserve to be prosecuted and should not have been prosecuted. I'm so glad that the president had exercised his pardon authority to do so. But as we go forward, this is one of those things where we are at some point as a nation going to have to put this behind us.
I mean, I don't hear you condemning the fact that people who are beating up Capitol Hill police officers who literally would lay down their lives to protect you and your family. I don't hear you expressing concern that they were pardoned, but let's move on.
Jake, actually, I did. You did hear me say that.
Okay.
You did actually hear me say that.
Among the flurry of executive orders President Trump has issued, I know there's one that you're very concerned on because there was a law to ban TikTok. It was passed by the House, passed by the Senate, signed into law, upheld by the U.S. Supreme Court, but President Trump is putting a 75-day pause on that. I don't even know, I mean, I didn't even know that a president could do that, but what's your reaction?
Well, there's a great editorial in the Wall Street Journal today, I think, that encapsulates what you just said. This is a law that was passed by Congress and signed by the President of the United States, and it includes dates and actions that need to be taken in order for a sitting president to have an ability to pause its effect, and that is that ByteDance, the owner of TikTok, began the process of being able to disinvest from TikTok. Now, ByteDance has said they will not do so, and I believe it's because they don't really see it as a business. I believe that it is used by them as a propaganda tool. I have grave concerns that it's a national security risk, that the access to data and other apps on equipment, phones that the apps could be on are at risk. That's why many governments around the world have banned TikTok from being used on their equipment. Even India has banned TikTok in its country, and we had begun the process of requiring disinvestment. I think this national security threat is a real one. That this law that we passed needs to be enforced, and China's interest in TikTok needs to be divested.
Before you go, sir, you were until recently the chairman of the House Select Committee on Intelligence, and Speaker Johnson removed you from that post. I'm wondering if you have any thoughts as to why that happened, or where the Intelligence Committee goes going forward. I know there are lots of members of the Intelligence Committee, Republicans and Democrats, that were not happy with that announcement.
Right, yeah, and Jake, you and I spoke about that just shortly after. One thing is certain, if you go in a different direction with the Intelligence Committee, where you're looking into the intelligence community itself and the so-called deep state, you stop looking at the nation states or the non-state actors that seek to threaten Americans and the risk to the United States. And that's what I'm fearful of. My focus was on national security. It will continue to be on national security. And I think it's unfortunate that the committee might be losing its focus and instead focusing on what they consider to be the elusive deep state.
Congressman Mike Turner, a Republican of Ohio, thanks so much, sir. Appreciate it. Another urgent matter. The U.S.